If you had asked me a little less than half a week ago whether Joe Biden was going to be ousted by his own party, forced out the door, maybe bribed to go away by his own party, I would have said that seemed very, very unlikely. But the momentum is building, and here's the problem for the Democrats. They are all now starting to come out of the woodwork and say that Joe Biden needs to go. How do you put that genie back in the bottle if he doesn't? This is the biggest problem with which Democrats have now presented themselves. They have now said the quiet part out loud, that the old man is senile, that he is not capable of carrying out his duties as president of the United States. But let's say that Joe Biden doesn't want to go. How do they then twist everything they have been saying for the last week into a narrative where that man has to be president of the United States? Which is why they're banking on Joe Biden leaving. Now, whether he does or not is going to be up to Joe Biden and really more importantly, up to the greatest doctor of all time, Dr. Lady Macbeth, Jill Biden, and the rest of the Biden family, as we'll get to in a little while. But if Joe Biden sticks around, the entire Democratic Party apparatus at this point is beginning to turn on Joe Biden and do so publicly. They're doing so through leaks. They're doing so through public statements. They're acknowledging the obvious at long last. Now, the reality is that they sort of have to do this. And the reason they have to do this is because if they did not, their entire credibility would be blown. What Joe Biden did last Thursday night in that debate was not just a bad debate. It was a historically bad decision. See, the entire Democratic Party apparatus and the entire legacy media, they were banking on Team Biden, at least providing them plausible deniability so that they could continue to lie that Joe Biden was basically okay. Behind closed doors, he's fine. So what that meant was only let Joe Biden out for extremely short stints of time. Do not put him in a position where he looks like he did last Thursday night. And then they could plausibly claim that he's probably fine. He's probably okay. Everybody's exaggerating. And then Team Biden pantsed everyone. And Joe Biden personally pantsed everyone on his own side. He embarrassed all of them. He made them look like fools because we all can tell that they've been lying now for a year or two or three. That makes the entire Democratic Party look terrible. Their credibility is shot. The entire legacy media, they look terrible. Their credibility is shot, all because Joe Biden insisted to his aides that he was ready and raring to go and that he wanted to debate Donald Trump and that he would take Donald Trump down in one fell swoop. And it turns out that listening to the demands of a delusional, senile old man is a really, really bad idea in the middle of a presidential election. So the bottom is starting to fall out of the Joe Biden campaign at this point. So if last Friday I would have said that the chances of Joe Biden dropping out of the race are 1%, 2%. At this point, because donors, Democratic Party honchos, the legacy media, are now openly turning on Joe Biden, I would say that that percentage chance is now rising to 30, 40%. Can Joe Biden withstand the rising tsunami of rage inside his own party? Now, maybe they figure out a way to get Joe Biden out. Maybe they go to Joe and they say to him, listen, if you step out, if you declare you're not going to run again and you hand this thing over to Kamala Harris, then we'll find some way to get you a $100 million check. We'll find some way to make you exorbitantly wealthy and your family for the rest of time, which is really what the Biden family wants. We'll find some way to bribe you to get out. We'll build you a beautiful presidential library. We'll start for you a 501c3. We'll get all of our mega donors to donate tens of millions of dollars to that thing. We'll make the entire Democratic National Convention about the historic achievement of getting rid of Donald Trump and about the magic that you have done as president. And then you can give an amazing valedictory speech and walk off into the sunset as a hero of the Republic who recognized that he couldn't stop Trump, but he had to step out of the way for someone who could. Maybe they're able to convince Joe Biden of that over the course of the next week. That obviously is the pitch that they are making behind closed doors to Joe Biden at this point. But it's an inside-outside game. They are making that friendly pitch inside. On the outside, the Democratic Party has turned like a snarling dog against the guy who is leading their party. It's something I've never seen before in American politics. I'm not sure anyone has seen it before in American politics. The closest comp might be the Democratic rebellion against Hubert Humphrey as the nominee, the vice president to Lyndon Johnson, in 1968 after Johnson stepped out. But the reality is that even that is not comparable because Hubert Humphrey was not the sitting president of the United States at the time. The sitting president had already declared he wasn't running for re-election. Not only that, Joe Biden isn't just the sitting president. This race is still somewhat tight. Now, make no mistake, Donald Trump is starting to pull away in the aftermath of this debate. According to a new CNN poll, Donald Trump is now leading Joe Biden nationally by 6 points. Now, that is the same as the result CNN had back in April. But here's the thing. Even if Joe Biden would argue that the debate hasn't changed the race, if it doesn't change the race, he loses. If Joe Biden were to lose the popular vote by 6 points, This is a historic whooping, the likes of which we probably have not seen in the Republican Party since Ronald Reagan in 1984. It's really a disastrous showing for the Democratic Party if he loses 49-43, because there are a lot of states that are within that 6-point margin of error. That same poll, by the way, shows Trump beating Kamala Harris 47-45. And what we're looking at right now is probably the high watermark for Kamala Harris. There'll be an attempt, as we'll talk about again in a little bit, to ninth look at Kamala Harris, this thing, to pretend that Kamala Harris actually is wonderful, that she isn't the most annoying person in American politics, that she's not a liar who has failed up every step of her career and backs radical policies and is dishonest and inauthentic. There'll be an attempt to sort of massage her into credibility. It's not going to work. The American people don't like her. So Kamala, obviously, she's terrible. They're going to try to massage her into looking good because what else are they going to do? I mean, Joe Biden is falling apart. You know what Joe Biden could probably use? He could probably use some proper medication. And here's the thing. There may be times when you can't get the proper medication because, say, the hospitals are overflowing and CVS is shut down and all of the rest of it because of COVID. You remember all of that. But here's the thing. I don't want to be reliant like that again. I'm not about to let the government and big pharma run my life again. I took control of both mine and my family's health and ordered a medical emergency kit from the doctors at the Wellness Company. It's not a first aid kit. It's a kit filled with essential prescriptions that can treat over 39 medical issues. The kit includes strong antibiotics for infections of all types, including pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, and more. It's like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no waiting at a pharmacy. It's all in the kit. Every home needs at least one medical emergency kit. Visit urgentcarekit.com/Ben. Enter promo code Ben for my 15% discount. It's easy. It's all online. It takes about 3 minutes. Your kit ships directly to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/Ben. Enter promo code Ben for your 15% discount. That's urgentcarekit.com/Ben. Enter promo code Ben to get started and protect yourself and your family. So that polling, there's new polling that's come out from CNN. There's also some insider polling, Democratic internal polling. So again, when I say the Democratic Party has turned on Biden, this is why you're getting all these leaks now. The Biden administration was not particularly leaky. All of a sudden, this thing has sprung leaks like the Titanic. It hit the iceberg of that debate, and the water is pouring into the hall. Team Biden is shifting deck chairs up top, but the rest of the Democratic Party is loading into those lifeboats. So the leaks are coming, and they are coming fast. Puck News, which does a good job of covering this stuff, they got a hold of a Biden internal polling memo from Open Labs, and here is what it shows. What it shows is that in virtually every state, Joe Biden has dropped at least 2 points in the polling. So, for example, he went from a 3.7-point lead in Colorado to 1.9. That's a almost 2-point drop. He dropped 2 points in Minnesota. He had a 2.4 percentage point lead. Now that lead is 0.4 percentage points, well within margin of error. The outstanding Maine electoral vote. So Maine is a weird state. It has a couple of electoral votes, and they split depending on the district. The margin for Joe Biden has dropped by 2 points. The new polling shows Joe Biden behind in, get ready for this, New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, where he is down now, according to this polling, by almost 3 points. Wisconsin, Nebraska's 2nd district, Michigan by 7 points, Pennsylvania by 7 points, Nevada by 9 points. Those are full-scale disaster Roland Emmerich numbers. I mean, that is the earth freezes numbers for Joe Biden. And those leaks of polling numbers are being accompanied by new leaks to the New York Times and other friendly publications about just how non-compos mentis Joe Biden is. Now, remember, all of these leaks actually undermine the case that the legacy media and Team Biden and the Democratic Party are making, which is that we are shocked to find that Joe Biden is senile. But aides are now coming out of the woodwork, and they're trying to protect themselves by saying, listen, we were told to lie, right? We're just being good soldiers. We've known for a long time that Joe Biden is out of it, but we are the people who want to stop Donald Trump. The party told us that we had to stop Donald Trump by propping up the old man, and so we did it. So you do have this internal battle inside the Democratic Party on along a couple of axes. You have an internal battle between people who want to keep Biden, which is basically just the Biden family at this point, and then everybody else. And then you have an internal battle between the Biden aides who are trying to defend their own record here and the Democratic Party and the legacy media who are trying to claim implausibly that they had no idea that Joe Biden was this bad. And the aides who are saying, listen, everybody knew that Joe Biden was this bad. And we've known this for a long time. You knew it. We knew it. We're just doing our best to cover it up. That's our job. Right? That's what the aides are now saying by leaking to the New York Times. So, entire piece at the New York Times, Biden's lapses are said to be increasingly common and worrisome. According to the New York Times, in the weeks and months before President Biden's politically devastating performance on the debate stage in Atlanta, several current and former officials and others who encountered him behind closed doors noticed he increasingly appeared confused or listless and would lose the thread of conversations. Now, wouldn't that have been nice to know, months ago? Maybe like before the Democratic primaries. That might have been a good thing. But instead, they covered it up. Because again, they were relying on the Democratic Party, on Team Biden, to cover it up. They were relying on Team Biden to lie to you and provide them cover for their lies. That's why they're really mad. And they're really pissed because they feel betrayed by Team Biden, not because Biden is senile. They knew the whole time, but they knew also that they would not be exposed because Team Biden for sure would not put that old man in a debate to just basically die on stage. But that's what they did. Now the New York Times, which is lashing out with the rage of a woman scorned, has this piece, quote, like many people his age, Mr. Biden, 81, has long experienced instances in which he's mangled a sentence, forgot a name, or mixed up a few facts, even though he could be sharp and engaged most of the time. But in interviews, people in the room with him more recently said the lapses seemed to be growing more frequent, more pronounced, more worrisome. The uncomfortable occurrences were not predictable, but seemed more likely when he was in a large crowd or tired after a particularly bruising schedule. In the 23 days leading up to the debate against former President Donald Trump, Mr. Biden jetted across the Atlantic twice for meetings with foreign leaders and then flew from Italy to California for a splashy fundraiser, maintaining a grueling pace that exhausted even much younger aides. So their excuse now is that Joe Biden got very tired from having been in Europe. There's only one problem. He arrived back in the United States 12 days before the debate. He then proceeded to go to Camp David for a full week and do nothing before the debate. So don't give me the he was tired routine just like a normal man would be. It's nonsense. Biden was drained enough from back-to-back trips to Europe, his team cut his planned debate preparation by 2 days so he could rest at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. They made him comfortable before deciding what to do with him, before joining advisors at Camp David for rehearsals. The preparations, this is the part that's amazing. You ready for this? The preparations, which took place over 6 days, never started before 11 a.m. 11 a.m. So I have a small baby. He's very cute. He's 13 months old. He wakes up like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, I don't know anyone who is not senile who starts their day at 11 a.m. That's insane. 11 a.m. And Mr. Biden was given time for an afternoon nap every day, according to a person familiar with the process. I'm not sure there's been a more devastating leak against Joe Biden than this. That he woke up sufficient to be prepared at 11 a.m., and then by 1, he was taking a nap. Woo! Andrew Bates, White House spokesman, said on Tuesday the president was working well before the 11 a.m. start time each day after exercising. By exercising, they mean doing pool calisthenics. Still, at a fundraiser on Tuesday evening, Mr. Biden blamed fatigue for his debate performance. He said, I wasn't very smart. I decided to travel around the world a couple times. I don't know how many time zones. He added, I didn't listen to my staff. I came back. I fell asleep on the stage. Nope. So, Joe Biden, he sleeps till 11 a.m. He has his aquatics. He takes full days off to go to Rehoboth Beach, and he's still sleeping. You know what he could probably use? A heavy dose of Black Rifle coffee. I don't always have time to brew coffee the traditional way every morning. This is why I love Black Rifle Coffee's ready-to-drink cans. Ready-to-drink coffee is perfect for people who need their coffee quickly. Each contains at least 200 milligrams of caffeine and is available in a variety of flavors like vanilla bomb, salted caramel, mocha, and vanilla caramel. Black Rifle Coffee is a veteran-founded coffee company operated by principled men and women who honor those who protect, defend, and support our country. With every purchase you make, they give back. Stop running out of coffee. Sign up for a Coffee Club subscription to have Black Rifle Coffee delivered straight to your door on a schedule. Coffee Club subscribers receive their high-quality coffee at lower prices with free shipping. Plus, they get early access to exclusive deals and prices. Save money, drink America's coffee. Head on over to blackriflecoffee.com to view their entire collection of premium roasts from light to extra dark. You can also find Black Rifle Coffee in grocery and convenience stores near you. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Again, go check them out right now, blackriflecoffee.com. I rely on them. Seems like Joe Biden might need to rely on them more lately. Head over to blackriflecoffee.com. Everybody loves Black Rifle Coffee, no matter your political orientation. Now, what's really funny about this New York Times piece is then they use as proof that Joe Biden is senile all the things they denied were happening. So we're all passing around video, we played it on the show, of Joe Biden freezing up in the middle of a dancing fest at the White House, or Joe Biden randomly wandering off into the woods at the G7. And we were told these were cheap fakes. The New York Times ran an entire piece about how this was all out of context nonsense. Quote, on June 10th, he appeared to freeze up at an early celebration of the Juneteenth holiday. On June 18th, his soft-spoken tone and brief struggle to summon the name of his Homeland Security Secretary at an immigration event unnerved some of his allies at the event, who traded alarmed looks and later described themselves as shaken up. He is certainly not that way all the time. In the days since the debate debacle, aides and others who encountered him, including foreign officials, described him as being in good shape, alert, coherent, capable, engaged in complicated and important discussions and managing volatile crises. They cited example after example in cases where critical national security issues were on the line. Okay, by the way, their proof that Joe Biden is sane and sentient is him doing the worst thing I have heard him do during his presidency. You ready for this? Aides present in the Situation Room the night Iran hurled a barrage of missiles and drones at Israel portrayed a president in commanding form, lecturing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu by phone to avoid a retaliatory escalation that would have inflamed the Middle East. Quote, "Let me be crystal clear," Biden said. "If you launch a big attack on Iran, you're on your own." Biden pushed back hard. "You do this," Biden said forcefully, "and I'm out." So the proof that Joe Biden is very with it is him standing for Iran. This, by the way, is the untold story of the Biden saga, is that he's a terrible president. He's awful. When he's sentient, he's worse than when he's a vegetable. That's the part that's astonishing. In any case, the freak out is in full scale. It is happening right now. And it is somewhat hilarious, if alarming, to watch it happen in real time. So there's a piece in Axios talking about the disarray. Alex Thompson, who is a reporter for Politico, he tweeted, "For real this time, Dems are in disarray." Someone questioned back at him on Twitter, "Source?" And he wrote back, "All of them." All of them. That's correct. So Axios has a piece called "Freaking the F Out, Turmoil in the White House Over Biden." Officials on President Biden's White House and campaign staffs say they're feeling rage, sadness, frustration, and resolve over his debate performance and his team's response to it. More than a dozen White House and campaign aides told Axios. Again, the leaks are coming fast and furious. "It's the first topic of every conversation," one White House official said. "Senior leadership has given us nothing. To act like it's business as usual is delusional." Another official put it more bluntly. "Everyone is freaking the F out." A third White House official told Axios, quote, "The uncertainty after Thursday is palpable and anxiety is only increasing. People are looking for leadership and direction that they were told to trust and hoped was there, but aren't feeling yet in what is now clearly a defining moment for this presidency. Many officials feel they are being given talking points with no explanation of why Biden appeared unable to string sentences together or articulate a case for himself over Trump. The lack of answers from senior aides has continued this week, leading to growing anger and resentment among many inside the Biden camp." Part of Biden's team sees the debate as just one bad night. One longtime Biden aide is basically going with the "they're all bedwetters" line. He says, "Davos Dems love to hedge their bets against us and get hysterical like they did in 2019. And just like in 2020, they'll come back with their DNC convention lanyards in their hands, begging for Christmas party invites and then for a +1. But that's obviously not true. A huge number of Democrats are now starting to break ranks and say that this is a disaster area. So, Punchbowl News, Jake Sherman's publication, good publication, worth the read. He has a piece titled, "How Biden is Losing Hill Dems." Hill Democrats are growing increasingly wary of sticking with Biden following his disastrous performance in the Atlanta face-off versus former President Trump. The underwhelming response since then from Biden, his campaign operation in the White House, has angered scores of rank-and-file Democrats. They've been pressuring their own leadership for more insight into what's happening with the party's standard-bearer just 4 months out from an election, according to more than a dozen lawmakers and aides. This can't just be the Bidens talking among themselves, veteran House Democrat complained Tuesday night. This is the presidency we're talking about. The crisis is much more immediate for Hill Democrats. Every House Democrat has Biden at the top of the ticket in November. Senate Democrats running in red states where Trump will romp to victory face an even tougher challenge. Biden apparently called House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Tuesday night. There have also been calls by senior White House officials, including the White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, and Steve Ricchetti, a top aide. Another senior House Democrat said, quote, "He needs to start showing and stop telling. Otherwise, he'll lose more House Dems. It's that acute." The lawmaker said the next wave of Democrats coming out against Biden will be senior members and veteran senators whose opposition could prove fatal to the president's re-elect bid. They've been shielding him from these types of settings for months. Even after it became undeniable, they're still lying to us, one Democratic senator said. There's a lot of frustration right now in the caucus. So several Democrats have now come out and openly dissociated from Biden, said that he's going to lose. Right? The House Democrats apparently had a vent session, according to Axios. Axios says a pre-planned meeting of House Democrats focused on the party's political messaging devolved into a grievance fest about President Biden. The virtual meeting Tuesday afternoon was a listening session for the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee to go over messaging ahead of the 2024 election. Much of the meeting was taken up by members expressing irritation and misgivings toward Biden and his team. Again, the number of lawmakers who are freaking out is very, very real. The angst is real. Another Axios piece, behind the curtain, Democratic rage at Biden rises, is Jim Vandehay and Mike Allen reporting. They're the two top reporters and founders of Axios. Top Democratic lawmakers tell us they're madder and more deeply concerned than about Biden's denial and deflection than about his bad debate performance itself. Some lawmakers want Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to privately push Biden to step down. I don't know who's making decisions, said one House Democrat. Why the hell isn't Biden on the phone with congressional leadership? Everyone now thinks he could cost us the majority. In private, lawmakers are sharing stories of Biden's mental and physical decline. Now, again, what you're starting to see is a collapse inside the Democratic Party. This is a full-scale collapse. Harry Enton at CNN, he reports the same thing. He says that with the new polling data, the calls for Biden to leave are growing very, very loud indeed.
I mean, these numbers are atrocious for Joe Biden. That's the only way you can put it. I guess the good news when you match him up against Donald Trump is that he hasn't lost any ground from where he was back in April, but he was trailing in April by 6 points, and he's trailing by 6 points now. And I think there's, of course, the big question is, could another Democrat do better than Joe Biden against Donald Trump? And this new poll says, or at least suggests that perhaps they could. So when I look at polls like this and you see the first call for Joe Biden to get out of the race from a member of Congress on the Democratic side, I don't think polling like this will stop those calls. I would only expect them to get louder if polling like this holds in other surveys.
This is exactly right. It is growing louder. Politico reports the dam is now breaking on Joe Biden among Democrats. Representative Lloyd Doggett was the first representative to call on Biden to step aside. He said, I represent the heart of a congressional district once represented by Lyndon Johnson. Under very different circumstances, he made the painful decision to withdraw. President Biden should do the same. Representative Jim Clyburn, who's the guy who made Biden president, told Andrea Mitchell of MSNBC that he will support Kamala Harris if Biden were to step aside, which is a crazy statement. What he should be saying is there's no chance that Joe Biden will step aside. That's an irrelevant question. I mean, the news would be terrible for Joe Biden if he were awake right now. The beauty of being Joe Biden is you can sleep any time of the day, anywhere you are. But you're not Joe Biden. The only way that you can get sleep is on a really nice mattress. Same for me. That's why I appreciate my Helix mattress. Helix harnesses years of mattress expertise to offer a truly elevated sleep experience. The Helix Elite Collection includes 6 different mattress models, each tailored for specific sleep positions and firmness preferences. If you're nervous about buying a mattress online, you don't have to be. Helix has a sleep quiz that matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress. Why would you buy a mattress made for somebody else? I took that Helix quiz. I was matched with a firm but breathable mattress. I love it. My wife loves it. We are big Helix fans over at the Shapiro household. Helix has a 10-year warranty. You can try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will. Helix's financing options and flexible payment plans make it so a great night's sleep is never far away. For a limited time, Helix is offering up to 30% off all mattress orders plus 2 free pillows. Just head on over to helixsleep.com/Ben. It's their best offer yet. It's not going to last long. helixsleep.com/Ben. With Helix, better sleep starts right now. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. Go check them out right now. helixsleep.com/Ben. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is now speaking out about this sort of stuff. So here's Nancy Pelosi saying donors are now split on Biden and concerned. This is Nancy Pelosi. She was the Speaker of the House until quite recently.
I hear mixed. Some people are saying because Donald Trump is such an authoritarian and autocrat, we have to win this election. So therefore, people are very concerned. So it's split. Some are like, well, how can we subject the process to what might be possible? And others are, Joe's our guy. We love him. We trust him. He has vision, knowledge, judgment, integrity.
Okay, but that ain't going to carry it. I mean, when Nancy Pelosi is even letting the cat out of the bag that this thing is falling apart, you got a problem. Jake Tapper over at CNN reports Democratic governors convened a call to discuss Biden's debate performance, and they want a meeting with the White House to assuage concerns. Apparently, on the call, governors expressed surprise none of them had heard from Biden himself. Again, there is no way for Joe Biden to assuage these concerns because he is senile. That's the end of the story. There's no more there. Tim Ryan, former representative from Ohio, he says if Biden remains, it's going to be brutal. It is impossible for him to recover in this race. Tim Ryan, again, is a moderate Democrat from Ohio.
What do you think the effects will be down ballot if he stays on top of the ticket?
I think it would be brutal.
Like, I don't think we can like be polite right now and sugarcoat things. It will be brutal. I think it's impossible, honestly, that he would somehow recover. I mean, the images from that debate will continue to be reinforced throughout the next 4 months. Low information voters, this is going to be exactly what they're going to remember. And you're seeing it in the polling that's coming out, dripping out here in the last 12 hours or so. There's no recovering from something like this.
Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez from the Washington 3rd District. She's a Democrat. She's Biden's going to lose.
About 50 million Americans tuned in and watched that debate. I was one of them for about 5 very painful minutes. And we all saw what we saw. You can't undo that. And, the truth, I think, is that Biden is going to lose to Trump. I know that's difficult, but I think the damage has been done by that debate.
Moderate Democrats are starting to jump off the train and signal that, they might be okay with Trump winning. Representative Jared Golden of Maine. Again, Maine is a state that may, in fact, kind of half go for Trump. He's one of the most centrist Democrats in Congress. He told Politico, I don't plan to vote for him, but Donald Trump is going to win. Unlike Biden and many others, I refuse to participate in that campaign to scare voters with the idea Trump will end our democratic system. You might start to see Democrats, some in purple districts, starting to kind of conciliate themselves to the possibility that Joe Biden ain't their man because there is just too much of a disaster area at stake for them personally if Joe Biden remains on the ticket. Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, he said he was horrified by the debate. Again, once you have your entire party basically saying you need to go. And this is not, by the way, like when many Republicans in 2016, after Trump had won all the primaries, were like, maybe we can still stop him. Maybe we can stop him. Maybe. Like, it wasn't angst about the nominee. This is the sitting president of the United States to whom they have all basically pledged fealty, for whom they have all covered up for years. And now the dam is breaking and that water is coming through. And man, this is looking like the dam at the end of Superman 1. Where it starts to collapse and it's about to flood entire villages. Here's Sheldon Whitehouse.
I think, like a lot of people, I was pretty horrified. Well, I think people want to make sure that this is a campaign that's ready to go and win, that the president and his team are being candid with us about his condition, that this was a real anomaly and not just the way he is these days. I've never seen that happen before.
So this was not how you guys all knew behind the scenes he's like this?
No, this was a surprise.
This is a surprise. Lie. They have to say that because otherwise they're complicit in the lie. But they're lying. Clearly. Every reporter who's been in a room with Joe Biden for 2 years knows that dude falls asleep at meetings, that he is reading from we've seen the pictures. The gaslighting here is extraordinary. I don't think the American people are going to buy it in any way, shape, or form. I think this does historic damage to both the Democratic Party and the legacy media because we can all see the thing with our eyes. It is not like many of the other stories that the media have covered where they can pretend that they didn't know the thing in the moment. With Hunter Biden, we didn't know whether the laptop was disinformation or not. We just covered the information as it sort of emerged. We didn't know on COVID the whole story, so we just kind of covered the information as it evolved. We didn't know on Russia. Everyone in the entire world knew Joe Biden was senile 2.5, 3, maybe even 4 years ago. And y'all lied. And then he pantsed y'all on national television. I'm sorry, reality happened to you. Single tear. Now, Joe Biden's team just kept lying. They kept saying that he was totally fine. But you know what he really could have used? More healthful intake. You might think you're getting everything your body needs from that green juice you've been drinking every morning. You're not. Most people still fall short of the essential nutrients their bodies need to function at their very best. My good friend and colleague Christine, who's a triathlete, she also happens to be a mom to a toddler. She's been taking Momentous Creatine, Omega-3, and Protein Daily to cover all her bases. She is thrilled with the results. These 3 supplements support nearly every aspect of foundational health, from aiding cognitive function, to reducing muscle and joint inflammation. Momentous is dedicated to working with only the best experts in business and to using the highest quality ingredients. What's on the label? That's what's in the product. Absolutely nothing else is in there. Momentous also heavily invests in third-party testing, holding their products to the standard set by the most demanding organizations in the world, including the NFL and the NBA. There's a reason why the world's best athletes and experts use and help develop Momentous products. If you're like Christine, you want to take supplements that are made by and used by the best in the world, head on over to livemomentous.com/Shapiro or use code Shapiro for 20% off. livemomentous.com/Shapiro. That's livemomentous.com/Shapiro. Hey, Joe Manchin is apparently threatening to break with Biden, senior Democrats had to intervene. Quote, this is the Washington Post. As panic and confusion over President Biden's faltering debate performance swept the ranks of Democratic lawmakers late last week, Senator Manchin informed a few key allies he would soon break from Biden in an interview on a Sunday news show, a high-profile defection that would underscore the president's weakness. Democrats feared that Manchin would call for Biden to step aside. If he did, the senator would then become the first prominent elected official allied with the party to call for Biden to exit the race. But he didn't. Senior Democrats heard of Manchin's plans and started making calls to the independent-minded senator who once used a Sunday show appearance to announce his opposition to Biden's top agenda item and effectively kill it. A full-court press was quickly assembled to help dissuade Manchin from appearing on the show. That effort included a weekend phone call from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. No one wants to be the first one to knife Julius Caesar, one Democratic Party official said. Here's the thing. Doesn't matter who doesn't want to be the first one. Julius Caesar gets knifed. Julius Caesar gets knifed. That's the end of it. That's all you got. Barack Obama is now coming out of the woodwork to start leaking to the press about how maybe Joe didn't have it. By the way, no one would be happier in the world than Barack Obama to see Joe Biden go down in absolute flames. He would love it. Understand, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they don't get along. Barack Obama does not like Joe Biden. He thinks he's a fool. He nominated him in an attempt to look somewhat moderate in 2008, and he's been living with that bad decision ever since. According to the Washington Post, former President Barack Obama has privately told allies who have reached out to him that President Biden's already tough path to re-election grew more challenging after his shaky debate performance on Thursday, a harsher assessment of the presidential race than his public comments, according to several people familiar with his remarks. Obama separately spoke directly with Biden by phone after last Thursday's debate to offer support as a sounding board and private counselor for the embattled former VP. But Obama has long harbored worries about his party defeating Donald Trump in November, repeatedly warning Biden in recent months about how challenging it will be to win re-election. Just before the debate, Obama conveyed to allies his concerns about the state of the race. By the way, there are people who are no longer appearing at fundraisers with the Biden. So Jill Biden was supposed to travel to Michigan for a fundraiser. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor, not appearing at that fundraiser. The rats are fleeing the ship at this point. So the only question is how you get rid of the guy. How do you do it? Well, presumably you could bribe him, as I mentioned before. The Biden family loves money. So you could see the big donors go to Joe Biden, promise to build him a giant library, give his family a bunch of money, give Hunter some money for his finger paintings and all the rest if he'll just step away and then treat him at the hero at the convention. That's one path. Democratic National Committee member John Zogby, who is on the extreme radical side of the party when it comes to foreign policy particularly, he is now out front about his plan to replace Joe Biden.
I wonder, though, looking at all of this and where we are, what has transpired over the last several days, do you think this situation could have been avoided?
Sure, it could have been avoided. People have been talking about this as an issue a few years ago. It's gotten worse over the last several months. Look, Joe Biden deserves better than this. This is not the way he should go out. He should go out as the person who defeated Donald Trump, who passed significant legislation in his first couple of years before we had a dysfunctional Republican leadership in Congress. And it would be an opportunity, I think, for him to give a farewell address where he becomes the person who sacrificed ambition for the sake of the country. It would be his moment in history where he'd go out, I think, elevated in stature rather than reduced.
He's going to try and flatter him into do it. Good luck with this. Seriously, good luck. Okay, so the other, there are two big problems here. One is for the Democratic Party. They got a problem. They got a nominee who's no longer sentient. Their entire base doesn't like him. The Democratic higher-ups recognize he's going to lose, and they can't get rid of him. They can't get rid of him. The cork is still in the bottle. And then there is the problem, the existential level threat presented by Biden's collapse to the legacy media, which stapled themselves to Barack Obama's ass cheeks in 2008 and have not been able to separate themselves off from the Democratic Party ever since. And now they can ride this bomb all the way down to the ground like Rip Torn in Dr. Strangelove. And that is their choice. Or they can separate off. And it's pretty clear they would like to, preserve themselves at this point after having lied for years on behalf of Joe Biden. We'll get to that in just one moment. First, let's talk freedom. Real freedom. All this week, Daily Wire Plus isn't just celebrating freedom. We're literally giving a year of it away. You buy 1 year of Daily Wire Plus, you get 1 year for free. That means you get an additional year of The Ben Shapiro Show, uncensored, unfiltered, 100% ad-free, along with more daily shows from the most trusted voices in conservative media. Plus, on-demand access to our full library of hit movies, groundbreaking documentaries, hard-hitting series, and investigative journalism that cuts right through the noise. It doesn't get better or easier than this. 1 year of Daily Wire Plus, 1 year free. Go to dailywireplus.com right now. Get informed, get entertained. Join us as we fight the left and build the future. Okay, meanwhile, So remember, this isn't just a humiliating story for the Democrats right now. It is a complete, utter humiliation for the media because basically the media now have to pretend to be just as surprised as the small child when he sees the naked emperor, except that the media have been in the back rooms with the naked emperor for like several years at this point. They knew he was naked from the get-go. And then they only got pantsed when it turns out that he decided to walk full out in public with his balls dangling. Like that's really what happened here. This is the emperor's new clothes, except the media were like the people who were the tailors. They were the tailors who didn't give him clothes and helped cover up for the fact that he had no clothes and lied to him that he did have clothes. And then when he walks out stark naked and the entire American public is now the child going, that dude's naked. The media are like, he is? No, I'm shocked. No, how? What? Huh, us? No. Okay, except it's not credible at all. Jill Abramson, who used to be, at one point, an editor for the New York Times. She was executive editor of the New York Times from 2011 to 2014. She's speaking with Semaphor's Ben Smith. Quote, "It's clear the best news reporters in Washington have failed in the first duty of journalism, to hold power accountable. It is our duty to poke through White House smokescreens and find out the truth. The Biden White House clearly succeeded in a massive cover-up of the degree of the president's feebleness and his serious physical decline, which may be simply the result of old age. Shame on the White House press corps for not having pierced the veil of secrecy surrounding the president. Obviously, the president's decline was a super hard story to report, even by those who wanted to get it, like the Wall Street Journal. Their story did not deliver, using mostly unnamed GOP sources. But I do think if enough reporters had pushed, the story was reportable. I worry too many journalists didn't try to get the story because they did not want to be accused of helping elect Donald Trump. I get that. Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. She's saying all the quiet parts out loud right here. So, first off, I love that she says that the president's decline was a super hard story to report. Was it? Was it, though? I feel like it wasn't the hardest story to report. In fact, we've been doing it on the show for years. We just play clips of him in public. It's really super easy. He falls up the stairs once every 2 days. He's wearing moon shoes. The dude can't speak words in English. This has been true for years. But no, it's a very hard story to report. You understand? Super hard. I mean, you can't. How do you even chase that down? You mean aside from the reams of live video of the president of the United States being befuddled and walking into walls? Other than that, it's super hard story. Other hard stories include the sun rose this morning, as well as Rosie O'Donnell is a lesbian. These are stories that how could anyone break that story? Brutal stories to report. How could you get anyone on record to say that the senile old man who's clearly senile is senile when everyone can see he's senile? I mean, how could you do that, says Jill Abramson. And then she admits the quiet part out loud. I worry too many journalists didn't try to get the story because they did not want to be accused of helping elect Donald Trump. I get that. The superfluous I get that is amazing there. Or she could just end right there at, yeah, reporters didn't report it because they're biased, and that's not good. But she says, I get that. Why do you get that? That's not your job. Your job isn't to worry about whether the story helps Trump or hurts Trump. You've run stories throughout Donald Trump's political career trying to hurt him with false information. Now the most obvious true information in human history is before you. And you're like, well, we can't report that. It might help Trump. I get that, says Jill Abramson. Man, these people... If you have 1 ounce of trust in the legacy media at this point, and very few people do, the polling numbers show about 30% of Americans say they trust the legacy media. If you are one of those 30%, pull your head out of your rectum, man, because this is wild. She says, this is no excuse for abandoning our first duty, which is to report the truth and hold power accountable. President Biden should be held accountable for his obvious lapses of mental acuity, even if there are periods of lucidity. I mean, even if there are periods of lucidity. I mean, you mean as long, like, why would that even be questionable? Periods of lucidity. At this point, Joe Biden's periods of lucidity look like the moment of lucidity that people have when they are dying. They're on their deathbed and they've been senile for years and suddenly they recognize their wife in the 10 seconds before they pass. That's what Joe Biden looks like right now. It is simply astounding for the entire country, including its most seasoned reporters, to be as shocked as everyone was by the ugly and painful reality of Biden's debate performance. And it is laughable and immoral for Democrats to blame the press now for overreacting to that reality. The reports of how bad Biden was are certainly not exaggerated, nor are reports of Democrats in panic. Again, that was the executive editor of the New York Times from 2011 to 2014 saying all the things. Everyone knew he was senile. We didn't pursue the story. Like that's just amazing, amazing stuff. So, again, the press, it is very important to them right now that they separate off from this dying whale, right? They are barnacles on the carcass of a dying whale. They now have to separate off. So that means that every press conference from here on in, this is why it's going to be so rough for Biden. Democrats are already coming out of the woodwork and saying he shouldn't be the nominee. Meanwhile, the press, who have been his Praetorian guard for his entire modern career, covering up for every one of his flubs, every one of his excesses, his family's corruption, his senility. Now, in order to preserve themselves, they have to separate off the dying carcass of the whale. They have to. So yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre held her most brutal press conference, which is saying a lot since she's the worst press secretary in modern history. The real point of this press conference yesterday is not Karine Jean-Pierre's answer, because, again, she has no answers. She's never had answers. She's terrible at her job. I mean, truly awful at her job. Karine Jean-Pierre is to the press secretary's position what Kamala Harris is to the vice presidency, namely a DEI pick who is terrible at her job. In any case, Karine Jean-Pierre, this press conference is not about KJP. This press conference is about the reporters. So listen to the reporters pretending their ire at having been shocked by the emperor's nudity. Here she was. She was lying about how many pressers Biden has done. It's the questions that really matter in these things.
We've seen some real anger expressed by donors and Democratic officials, sort of how you guys have handled the president, shielding him away from impromptu settings, whether it's press conferences or interviews or, just being out in public.
This year, the president has done more than 40 interviews, and unscripted, right? Those interviews are unscripted. He has done more than 500 gaggles, right? Of course, unscripted, talking directly to many of you. No, let me just finish. And so he enjoys doing that. He enjoys engaging with all of you. And we're going to continue making sure that happens.
He has not done that many press conferences. He does not engage with anyone in the press. They all know it. So she's lying. But notice the tenor of the questions. The tenor of the questions is like, we're so mad. Everyone's mad. We're so mad. They have to pretend to be angry. They have to pretend to be angry in order to achieve their goal, which is to convince you that they didn't know about this all along. So here is Karine Jean-Pierre explaining that they've not been hiding information on his health. They've not been, which is weird since he has not released results of things like cognitive tests.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not.
He's not hiding anything. But again, notice the question. The question is he hiding things like, suddenly this press is as aggressive with Team Biden as they were with Team Trump? Weird how they flipped like that. Weird, almost as though there's a self-interested aspect to all of this. Karine Jean-Pierre tried to assure the press that behind closed doors, once again, he's doing back handsprings and solving for the Big Bang. Here we go. Again, notice the questions. The questions are the key.
How do you reconcile those two versions of a president, one who appeared the way they did to millions of people and the other who appears always to be, sort of very forceful and not have any of those?
I mean, look, the president spoke to this. You heard me speak to this. It was a 90-minute debate. It was a bad night. There has been also many instances where the president has really showed his strength and resolute that all of you have seen and commented about it.
No. Again, her answers are ridiculous, and the press isn't buying it anymore because, again, if they were to buy it, then they would be complicit in the cover-up. She tried to blame his debate performance on having a cold, again, which is just pathetic stuff. She had to insist he wasn't disabled. I kind of liked this one.
Is he disabled?
No. And let me finish with your colleague, please. And I know, but shouting out, come on. You know better. You know better.
You know better than to shout out. The question, again, was, is he disabled? Never a good look for a president. Is he disabled? Meanwhile, one reporter asked Karine Jean-Pierre about the fact that Joe Biden looks like, you're visiting your elderly grandparents.
I just think the question, it's the way we look at our elderly parents and grandparents. It's, you maybe visit them once a year and you see troubling signs because you don't live in the same city perhaps. And the first question that you go to is, I wonder if this is like a one-time thing or if it's something that has been happening for, a longer time that we need to deal with. And the second question is,
you're going
where are they going to be where are they going to be in a year? Where are they going to be in 2 years? Do we need to put them in a home? All of the questions that go through that, and this is sort of the American people's version of that.
I hear and I hear you, and that's what I'm saying. Look, this is why the president goes through, medical examinations, right? And we release those medical examinations, right? We've done that the past couple of years. We're going to continue to do that.
Okay, they've lost the Democratic Party. they've lost the media. So what in the world do they do now? Which brings us to the Biden family, because there's only one group of people in America who wish Joe Biden to retain the presidency, and it's everybody who's making a quick buck off Joe Biden's corpse. It must be uncomfortable to be Karine Jean-Pierre these days, being forced to answer questions you don't like, but maybe that's happening to you right now because the IRS is coming after you. Maybe you still have back taxes or unfiled returns. Well, the IRS has been coming after everybody. They added 20,000 new agents. They're sending millions of demand letters. Handling that alone, that can be a huge mistake. It can cost you thousands of bucks. In these challenging times, your best offense is Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved clients millions in back taxes. Regardless of the size of your tax issue, their expertise is your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities like garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, if you're missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then they'll create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. The IRS is the largest collection agency on planet Earth. Now that tax season is over, they are coming after you. For a complimentary consultation, call today 1-800-245-6000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Shapiro. That's 1-800-245-6000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro today. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. So here's the problem for Team Biden. They've lost the media because the media are humiliated. They've lost many top members of the Democratic Party because they too are humiliated with their own constituents, and they're looking at the polling numbers and they are freaking the F out. So who's left? The Biden family. The charming, wonderful Biden. Joe Biden is such a family man. Joe Biden is a man who loves his family. I mean, not that one granddaughter who he's never talked to, but everyone else. He really loves them. In fact, he went into politics for all the right reasons. He's such a good man, which is why he enabled his crackhead son to run around the world, picking up sacks of cash while stupping prostitutes and doing blow-off hookers' asses. That's how much Joe Biden loves his family. Joe Biden loves his family so much that Ashley Biden has some pretty creepy passages in her diary. He loves his family so much that he basically has enabled them for 50 years to make a buck on his name. Well, every so often stopping by a business meeting and dropping a wink and a nod. That's how much Joe Biden loves his family. So why wouldn't the Biden family want him to stay? The minute Joe Biden steps out of this race, they are irrelevant. They have to go get real jobs. Dr. Jill Biden would not be president of the United States anymore. And that'd be sad for her, considering she's never been elected to any public office, nor would anyone in their right mind ever vote for her for any public office. But you should understand right now, the 2 top voices in America, forget about in the White House, in America, the 2 most important voices are Dr. Jill Biden, she of the all-powerful Ed degree, and Hunter Biden, a man whose judgment was so poor that he left a computer filled with pornography, drug use, and criminal activity at a computer repair shop because he was so high. And that was about the time that he was stooping his dead brother's wife. Those are the top advisors to Joe Biden. Remember that time that Hunter was like super far away from Joe? Remember the media reported that too. They said that, Hunter's kind of on the outskirts. Sure, he loves Joe and Joe loves him, but it's not like he has any impact on policy. Well, now Joe Biden's meetings are featuring Hunter. Hunter is going to White House meetings. According to Mediaite and NBC News, this is NBC News, quote, one of the people familiar with the matter said Hunter Biden has been closely advising his father since the family gathered this past weekend at Camp David. This person said Hunter has popped into a couple of meetings and phone calls the president has had with some of his advisors. Another person familiar with the matter said the reaction from some senior White House staff has been, what the hell is happening? Which is a very good question. What the hell is happening when Hunter Biden, a man who is so nuts that he was thrown out of like Hollywood's most famous See Me hotel? That's who Hunter Biden is. Convicted felon, Hunter Biden, we should remember. That guy is like the chief advisor to the president of the United States. Does he have a dog in this fight, by the way, Hunter Biden? Well, considering that he's selling his finger paintings for $500,000 a pop, I'm going to go with yes on that. Considering that he needs his daddy to stay in office to pardon him, probably. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre confirming that Hunter Biden is stopping by meetings. This is crazy. This may be the craziest part of the story is, guys, don't worry. Joe Biden is not senile. He's so not senile that he's relying deeply on the advice of the former crack addict, absolutely insane son who knocks up strippers and gets convicted for federal gun charges. Don't worry. That's his chief advisor. Everything's fine. It's going great. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre confirming this.
We're reporting that Hunter Biden has been in some meetings with senior advisors. Why is the president's son involved?
Look, the president, as you know, is very close to his family. This is a holiday week, 4th of July. He spent time with his family, as you all know and reported, at Camp David. Hunter came back with him and walked with him into that meeting, that speech prep.
Is he participating in meetings with senior advisors?
What I can say is that he came back with his dad from Camp David. He walked him into the speech prep, and he was in the room. That I can tell you, he was in the room.
He walked him into the speech prep. That's kind of a line, isn't it? He walked him into the oh, you mean like I would walk my grandmother into the line at the cafeteria at the old age home? That's how he walked him in? The crack addict? That guy? That one? And the Wall Street Journal has a long piece about the family. Quote, the First Lady is the most influential figure in Biden's orbit right now. If she had urged the president not to seek re-election, that advice would have carried enormous weight. Instead, she's been Biden's biggest advocate as he seeks a second term. When Biden walked off the debate stage, he told his wife of 47 years, you know, Joe, I don't know what happened. I didn't feel that great, according to an account the First Lady shared at a New York City fundraiser last week. And I said, look, Joe, we're not going to let 90 minutes define the 4 years you've been president. Unlike some First Ladies who have chafed at the role, she has embraced the platform. In a bit of awkward timing, Joe Biden appeared on the cover of Vogue this week, declaring, we will decide our future. That's a real thing that happened. Her support for her husband has come from a view that being president is a role he both wants to keep and excels at doing. Well, actually, it comes from the fact that she likes being the president of the United States. She loves it. She loves it. It's her favorite. Other members of the family, super into Joe Biden reigning president also. Val Biden, who made her bones by campaign managing Joe Biden's multiple failures. According to the Wall Street Journal, until the president sought the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, his sister had managed his political campaigns dating back to 1970. When Biden pursued the presidency in 2020, she had some misgivings. She worried Trump would target their family, including Hunter. But she said she wants her brother to seek re-election. Quote, I think my brother is the right person at the right time for all the right reasons. Meanwhile, Hunter is very pro him staying in the race, of course. I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. The Biden family is a mess. They've always been a mess. They're a corrupt, mafioso political family. They have been for decades. The attempt by the press to spin the Biden family into the Waltons is, again, one of the great con jobs in the history of American media coverage. So what is the way that Joe Biden is going to try and right this ship? So he's going to first speak with Democratic governors for the first time since the disastrous debate, apparently. CBS News reports a meeting is now planned for today, with some planning to attend in person and some virtually. Can we just say it's probably not going to go all that well? Meanwhile, they have now planned a big interview with, wait for it, a really unfriendly face, George Stephanopoulos. So, suffice it to say that George Stephanopoulos has in the past been a very, very solid massage artist with regard to President Joe Biden. This interview will not air live, which is not going to quiet any complaints. Right? They'll just have like a bunch of quick cuts and some answers that make him appear semi-lucid. They can always cut the cameras if he starts to fall asleep. Now, you could see a world where George Stephanopoulos, picking up on the momentum in the media and the Democratic Party, really shivs Biden. You could see that too. So I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen. That interview is going to be taped later this week. It's going to air on Sunday. You could see a world where George Stephanopoulos puts the final arrow into Joe Biden, where he allows the camera to linger just a little too long as Joe Biden drools all over himself. That could certainly happen. With that said, the other could also happen, which is George Stephanopoulos continues to do tricks for Joe Biden. You'll remember back in summer 2021, when Joe Biden was collapsing on Afghanistan, there was an interview between Stephanopoulos and Biden in which Stephanopoulos was quite friendly with Joe Biden. So, of course, he picks George Stephanopoulos to go back to here.
Your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should just keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can do that. We can continue to do that.
No, no one said that to me that I can recall.
Still a lot of pandemonium outside the airport.
Well, there is, but look, but no one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
But you don't think this could have been handled, this actually could have been handled better in any way? No mistakes?
No, the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens.
Okay, so Even Stephanopoulos trying to massage Biden at that point was bad. So we'll see what kind of work this is the Biden campaign going to Bonacera and saying, I did a favor for you, and now make my boy look presentable for his mother. That's where we are right now in the Biden campaign. Biden campaign spokesperson was asked yesterday about when Joe Biden would do, live interviews. She's like, well, he is doing a pre-scripted speech on climate, if that'll do. When will you do a live interview? Well, I will be reading from this piece of paper for 4.5 minutes. Will that satisfy you? Can I offer you this used car? Here we go.
I know the campaign, according to our reporting, is considering more unscripted events for the president, potentially a big sit-down interview, potentially a press conference. There is a difference with those events. Where does that planning stand? When will we see the president do that?
Well, first of all, the president is speaking from the White House today about climate, a very important issue that he has been historic on when it comes to passing historic climate change legislation. You're going to see him out on the campaign trail, of course, in the coming days, in the coming weeks. We're going to continue to get him out there to go to battleground states to really make it clear what's at stake in this election. He's going to continue to go to these states, talk to voters, have these conversations.
Good luck with this. That is Adrienne Elrod, the senior spokesperson for the Biden campaign. I love that. She's asked, when will he do live interviews? And she's like, well, he will read from a piece of paper, and then he will wave vaguely at the crowd. Okay. All of this is creating such heartburn that now it's time for the media to try once again. Is it time for Kamala Harris? Is that Kamala Harris's music? Is it coming? So it's time for 9th look at Kamala Harris. And this is one of my favorite games in American politics over the course of the last 5 years, is 9th look at Kamala Harris. It's really fun. So you had first look at Kamala Harris, and that was back in 2020 when she was running for the presidency. She had a hot moment on the debate stage where she called Joe Biden a racist and maybe and then she quickly fell off because it turns out she's an incompetent campaigner, totally inauthentic, utterly charmless, and super annoying. And so she didn't even make it to her California primary. And she dropped out super early. And everybody's like, oh man, she can't run a campaign. She's terrible at this. My goodness. She's really, really bad. Ugh. And then Joe Biden selected her and it was like, second look at Kamala Harris. It's time to take a look at, maybe she's brilliant. Maybe she's great. She is, after all, a black woman. And they took a second look at Kamala Harris and like, maybe she's awesome. And then it turns out, terrible campaigner, bad at her job. Like, oh man, she's really, just bad. Terrible at this. Like, trying to bail out BLM rioters and making dumb statements on the campaign trail and getting clocked by Mike Pence in debate, just being awful. Oh, my God. And then Biden won, and it was like, third look at Kamala Harris. Maybe we missed it the first two times. Third look at Kamala Harris. There are a bunch of stories about how this is Kamala Harris's moment. And then she was put in charge of, like, the border. Fail. Middle East. Fail. Like, everything she touched. Fail. You're like, oh my God, she's terrible at this. Like, she's in her office playing solitaire. She doesn't do anything for a living. She just repeats stock weird phrases. She has a bizarre laugh. She has the weird hand motions. She's always giving the simpering smile. Like, oh God, she's just awful. She can't, her office, like people are leaving her office by the drove. She's terrible. And then like a year later, they're like, you know what? Fourth look at Kamala Harris. Time for a fourth look at Kamala Harris because, maybe it's the Biden White House that's depriving her of the opportunities. Maybe she just needs to be more out front. Maybe she needs to fly free, little bird. And then they did. They let her be out front and they let her make speeches and she was terrible and everyone hated her and her poll numbers went down and she's the most unpopular vice president in modern American history. She's the worst vice president since Spiro Agnew, who had to resign. And everybody was like, oh man, she's just awful, just terrible, terrible. And now, because Joe Biden may have to step down, because he might be forced out, because they might bribe him to get out, now they're like, maybe it's time for 112th look at Kamala Harris. Maybe we missed it the first 111 times. This time, things will be different. This time, everything will change. So Playbook has a piece today titled The Kamala Harris Vibe Shift. The Vibe Shift. When VP Kamala Harris's staff held their usual Monday staff meeting this week, Chief of Staff Lorraine Voles kicked it off with a clear message. We are following our leader, she said, according to people present. Harris is supporting Joe Biden, Voles told them, emphasizing there would be no tolerance for engaging in Plan B parlor games that had dominated Democratic politics in the days since Biden's disastrous debate. And yet, for the first time in years, Harris seems to be having a genuine moment, fueled by speculation that she, not Biden, would be the more competitive nominee. Now, that has nothing to do with Kamala Harris. That has to do with the fact that Joe Biden is a corpse, and you can't run a corpse. So basically, the math is, do we run this unbelievably unpopular vice president or the corpse? Those are the choices. And people are like, man, this is the worst game of political Russian roulette ever. It's just terrible. What's clear is the strange new respect developed without any nudge from Harris herself, who at every turn since Thursday's debate has defended Biden and batted away questions about a bailout. Look, Joe Biden's our nominee, she said yesterday. We beat Trump once. We're going to beat him, period. Okay, it's not true. Okay, can I just say it's not true? You think all the leaks coming out of the White House have nothing to do with Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris in the conservatory with the lead pipe. Kamala Harris, the leaks that are flowing out of Kamala Harris, they flow like wine from Bacchus. You think that she's sitting there doing nothing? Kamala Harris has two jobs: be inauthentic and leak. And she's all out of inauthentic, gang. She's leaking like crazy because if that knife finds its way between Joe Biden's shoulder blades, then she gets to be president without ever having been good at anything, at literally anything. Terrible attorney general of the state of California. Got her job, of course, by sleeping with Willie Brown originally, who appointed her to a bunch of government boards while he was married. We should point out he was the mayor of San Francisco at the time in the mid-90s. And that is just a fact. That is how she originally got her start in politics in California. She failed up into a Senate seat, and she failed up into the vice presidency. And now she could be taking the Kathy Hochul path toward failing up all the way into the presidency. So Democrats are trying to rely on polling surrounding Harris. Harris beats Trump by 29 points with people of color versus 21 points for Joe Biden. Now, I should point out here that even a 29-point gap on quote-unquote people of color means that Biden probably loses, or Harris probably loses if she's the nominee. Biden loses independent voters by 10 points per CNN. Harris wins the group by 3 points. Not for long, she doesn't. The only reason that she's winning independent voters is because people haven't seen her in a while. And what is amazing about our political class is that the more we see them, the more we hate them. It's truly amazing. Now, the advantage for Harris over any other candidate in the Democratic Party, of course, is that all the money in the Biden-Harris campaign is transferable to Harris if Biden steps out. If it were to be somebody else, like Whitmer or Newsom or even Michelle Obama, they'd have to raise the money afresh. She'd talk a lot about abortion, I'm sure. I love this. From Politico. She has sharpened her game, many Democrats acknowledge. Even her worst days on the trail at this point are likely to be less problematic than Biden's best. Yeah, good luck with all that. I'm sure. I'm like, talk your way through this one. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Meanwhile, Democratic advisors are like, nah, she's really, really awful. Like, really awful. Top Democratic consultants debated Wednesday, according to Semaphore, before an audience of large Democratic donors, whether they could push Joe Biden out and whether Vice President Kamala Harris would be worse than a comatose or dead Biden. The fact that that's even a debate, you know how insulting that is? Imagine that you're up for a raise at your job. And they're like, well, you know, over here's old Bob. Old Bob's 81. Old Bob, he hadn't functioned in years. He's up for a raise. Or you. And frankly, it's kind of a toss-up. Would that make you feel good on your insides? I'm sure Kamala Harris is feeling real good these days. One advisor to the Biden team, Dimitri Melhorn, who's linked with major Democratic donor Reid Hoffman. He says, quote, swing voters believe Biden is feeble, but they like VP Harris even less. Quote, Kamala Harris is more threatening to swing voters than a dead Joe Biden or a comatose Joe Biden. So if Joe has to go, it's going to be Kamala. And if it's Kamala, it's going to be even harder. Yeah, man. I mean, again, Joe Biden, by selecting Kamala Harris, once again, equity, the worst job hiring strategy of literally all time. Already coming up, we are going to be joined by Josh Weigel. He's writer and director of Sound of Hope, The Story of Possum Trot. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.